Welcome to FRC Media News for Thursday, December 22nd, 2016. I'm Keith Tebow. On this week's show, we have the story of a new contract between the city and its EMTs. We now know who was recommended to become Bristol Community College's fourth president, and we take a sneak peek at the festive holiday decorations inside the Fall River Historical Society. But first, let's go over the news headlines of the week. We bring in Will Richmond, digital news editor of the Herald News. Will, how are you?
I'm good, Keith. How's it going?
Good. Even though it's a few days before Christmas, there's still quite a bit going on in the news. Let's start with the Charter Commission. As many people know, in last year's local election, the city voters voted to establish a charter commission to look at the 80-plus years since the city's charter has been looked at and made amendments to. And the Charter Commission has been working throughout the entire year, meeting on a regular basis. Well, this week, they actually started voting on some potential changes to the charter. And the first one that came up, Will, is something that may impact potential candidates running for office in terms of their eligibility to run for office. Talk about what they did.
Yeah, so one of the concepts that has moved through the commission is one that would require candidates for Fall River offices to acquire more signatures than currently needed to get on the city ballot. That includes mayor, city council, school committee members. Currently, to run in any of those races, you just need to get the signatures of 50 registered voters in the city. The commission has voted to change that amount to 300 for mayor and 150 for the city council and the school committee. So certainly there's a slight move to make those requirements a little bit tougher, maybe make prospective candidates work a little bit harder to get themselves on the ballot. That move got through the commission with just one vote against, with member Dan Robillard saying that it should be easy to get on the ballot. The hard part should be running. But that will move forward now as the commission finalizes a draft in the coming months.
I know one of the things that when the process began to put the issue of establishing a charter commission on the ballot, then City Councilor Mike Mioza, who was the co-chair of the Charter Commission and who spearheaded this entire event, was a little critical at the number of signatures needed in terms of getting that initiative on the ballot. And in some respects, they're making it difficult, some people will say, for candidates to run for office. From what you're hearing from people that you happen to speak to on this issue, how do they fall on this? Do they fall on it should be easier to get on the ballot, or there should be a little bit of work involved to get those signatures?
Well, I haven't heard much of a reaction to it. I think a lot of people are waiting to kind of see what this charter draft is going to look like as a whole. Of course, one of the aspects of this is that when it does get to voters in November of next year, is that it goes as a whole package. Mm-hmm. So, a voter could go in and say and vote against any charter change based on one aspect of it or on the changes as a whole. So I think we'll have to. I think a lot of people are kind of waiting to see what this is going to look like as a whole package in the end.
Right. Now we know that the Charter Commission, as you mentioned, needs to come up with a proposal to put before voters in next year's city election. Any ideas on any other changes they're looking at potentially doing, and what's their timeline to make sure that everything is in place so it is on the ballot next November?
Yeah, the commission also discussed at their meeting this week the possibility of making all mayoral appointments subject to city council approval. Mm-hmm. So that's one other thing they've been looking at. Timeline-wise, it appears they are planning for a public hearing sometime in the spring. There's going to be a draft proposal or a bit of a draft that they're going to publish in February that will help to sort of get some feedback on that at that public hearing. And then by May is the time where I think they're looking to kind of start formulating and more towards a final draft that would go to the public.
Right. All right. So we'll be following that as we enter 2017. And again, it's one of those issues that you know, it's been in the news for a while when Councilor Maioza started the aspect of forming a charter commission, then finally getting it going, and now the commission's been meeting on a regular basis, and the first steps of this will be coming to fruition next year. All right, the other big news story this week is actually very good news for the city's job market, as the city's unemployment rate dipped in November to 4.1%, the lowest point in over 10 years, I believe 16 years since it's been that low. Is it safe to say, Will, that the hiring at Amazon and also some seasonal help may have made an impact in November's number?
Yeah, I think that's probably a big piece of it. It was noted that I think there's about 1,800 people working at Amazon right now. 800 of those may be seasonal hires, so they'll be dropping back down to about that 1,000 higher level after the holidays, it appears. But certainly, this is a 16-year low for the city at 4.1%. It was 3.1% in October of 2000. So, any decrease is good news, certainly when you consider that it was averaging about 14.2% in 2010. That's a 10 percentage point drop in a 6-year period. That's great news. Certainly, places like Amazon help. I hope there are people locally getting construction jobs with the New Harbor Mall. We've got the Walmart that's gone online in the last couple of years. So job numbers are good. This trend mirrors other decreases statewide as well. So as a whole, Massachusetts seems to be doing pretty well with their unemployment levels. And hopefully it's a trend that keeps improving as well.
Yeah, I know it's been quite a long time when you can say that the city of Fall River's unemployment rate is actually below the national unemployment rate, which I believe is 4.5 or 4.6% for the month of November. So that's definitely good news. All right, Will, with Christmas coming up this Sunday, what do you guys have planned in the paper over the next few days?
Yeah, well, on Sunday, we're going to be reprinting a reader favorite. It's the column that was written by one of Fall River's theater legends, John McAvoy. So for anyone who kind of has that bit of nostalgia on Christmas Day, you'll be able to find that in Sunday's edition, as well as, we'll be doing a lot of our look back at the year work and starting to look ahead towards 2017.
And you mentioned the column by John McAvoy. Last week at the AHA event, Mark Monroe-Dion, your columnist there at the Herald News, actually read the column from John McAvoy. We actually recorded Mr. Dion's reading of the column, and you can find that on our FRCmedia website if those of you want to hear. And Mark did a great job in reciting that column for the people at AHA. So, all right, Will, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, and we'll talk again next week.
All right, Merry Christmas to you, Keith, and yeah, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, we'll have more FRC Media news right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Fall River Career Center. Project Administrator. Superior Drywall Incorporated, located at 432 Jefferson Street, is looking to hire a full-time project administrator responsible for all construction projects in the drywall trade and provide support to administrative staff and executive officers. Job number 828-4738. Food Service Supervisor. Corrigan Mental Health Center, located at 49 Hillside Street, is seeking a licensed registered dietitian to provide nutritional assessments, individual and group diet education, and administrative duties. Job number 822-6177. Clinician. St. Vincent's Home has a full-time fee-for-service opportunity to work in a community-based behavioral health programs and mental health clinic serving children, youth, and families. Spanish and Portuguese speaking preferred. Job number 827-5434. Rehab Care and Kindred Hospital Rehabilitation Services is looking to fulfill the following positions. Speech-language pathologist, job number 828-4593. Physical therapist, job number 828-4593. 828-4592. Program Assistant, job number 828-4591. Rehabilitation Technician, job number 828-2560. For more information on these or other positions, visit FRCmedianews.org or call the Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. Fall River City EMTs have signed a new 3-year contract, which City Administrator Kathy Ann Vivera says is a giant first step towards keeping the city in line with other cities and towns. Funding for the new deal comes from a $2.06 million SAFER grant awarded to the Fall River Fire Department that added 10 new firefighters. That grant expires at the end of June of 2018.
The contract represents extreme cooperative effort between not only the AFSCME EMS local, but also the firefighter union. And what it does is it is an important first step in allowing us to create a new position of paramedic firefighter within our department. And that's going to be essential in not only assisting us in absorbing the 10 SAFER grant positions that were funded through grant, but also in moving in a direction whereby we're going to have cross-training, cross-utilization of staff between the two departments, and much greater efficiency, and ultimately, we believe, more revenue generation and reduced cost.
The Board of Trustees at Bristol Community College last week recommended that Dr. Laura Douglas, who currently serves as the provost at Des Moines Area Community College in Iowa, serve as BCC's 4th president. At a public meeting last week, Trustee Anthony Sapienza explains why he voted for Dr. Douglas.
Number one, her preparedness. She came to our meeting with specific examples of problems that the college faces and examples of methods that she would implement to fix those problems. How she would do specific things around increasing enrollment, working on the financial issues that we have to try to maintain tuition and fees at a reasonable rate. She was clearly student and faculty centered. She understood the needs of both and brought that experience from her previous employment to the interview process. I was particularly impressed with her presentation skills. She was a listener. She was a collaborator and made it clear that that was the methodology that she would use to get to know this campus. But she also made it very, very clear that she understood that the buck stopped with the president of the college, and when decisions had to be made, she was willing to make the hard decisions to move this college forward.
Trustee Joan Medeiros agreed.
She was a very dynamic person, presented it very well. She was very well prepared, to echo comments from both of my fellow trustees on each side of me this afternoon. And I think that her style and her experience would be very well suited to the college to move us forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
The recommendation now goes to the Massachusetts Board of Higher Education for final approval. That decision is expected sometime in early 2017. If it's a go, then Dr. Douglas will take over for current President Dr. John Sprague when he retires in August. In this current fiscal year, Mayor Correa has set aside $300,000 as part of a citywide street renovation project. Michael Dion, Chief Operating Officer of the Community Development Agency that helps pay for the project, was hoping to have work begin on the project this month, but weather conditions got in the way.
Give you an update. We have gone out for bid. We've received three bidders, 3 bids. We've picked the lowest bid. We're working through a contract right now, and we should be ready to start the side work sometime in February, March. It'll be at locations scattered throughout the city. There's going to be some in the north end, south end, Flint area, and the way we determine that is based on census tracts. The Community Development Agency can only spend money on infrastructure projects in a census tract that has 51% or more low and moderate income people. So we actually have a map of the entire city, and the shaded areas on the map are those areas that are low income. So we have to stay away from certain areas like Highland Ave and the Highlands, but most of the other parts of the city are covered. There's small pockets here and there that are not low income.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
So this is Tyson here, this big hunk of meat. He's 3 years old. Obviously he's a pit. A very nice guy despite his size. A lot of people, they get intimidated by his size and they think, oh, I don't want this big monster, but he's just a big baby. I found with a lot of large dogs that tends to be the case. He tends to be very playful, just very happy. He clearly had a previous home. He came in as a stray, but just given his condition and his personality, I'm sure he had a previous home, and I'm sure they were very good to him too, because he's very good to us.
I'd like you to meet Sassafras. Sassafras had the misfortune of being turned in here because their owners were moving. Unfortunately, they couldn't take her with them. She's typical Persian. She's very pleasant. She's 11 years old. Just likes to lie around. Likes the company. She doesn't mind other cats. And she doesn't seem to mind other dogs or dogs as well. She's totally easy to handle. She's a little on the hefty side, but she's a beautiful girl. So if you want to come to meet her, we're at 300 Linwood Street in Fall River.
The Fall River Historical Society, as it does every year, decorates the inside of its building for the holiday season. According to Assistant Curator Dennis Bennett, the decorating actually begins in the fall.
Well, actually, there are 3 of us on staff and several volunteers that all get together. We close the museum mid-October, and it takes generally about 5 or 6 weeks before the decorations are done. This particular room that we're in with the nutcrackers on the tree took 2 weeks just for the room. So it's quite a time-consuming task.
Now, do you keep the decorations from year to year?
We do. We recycle them. We'll never do the same tree twice as the years go by, because we have so many repeat visitors that it would get boring for them if they knew what was coming. So we have to keep them guessing.
That'll do it for this edition of FRC Media News. You can catch FRC Media News Thursday and Friday at 6 p.m. and online 24/7 at frcmedianews.org. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next Thursday.